I'm Taylor Comblouzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. This session of our Oktoberfest Fall Mining Showcase will feature Gran Colombia Gold. Gran Colombia is a mid-tier gold producer with several mines in operation at its high-grade Segovia operations in Colombia. It is also advancing the recently acquired Toro Peru project in Guyana. From the company, we have with us Mike Davies, who's the Chief Financial Officer. I'll note that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, to just type them in and we'll get to them at the end of the session. You can submit them using the Q&A link. The presentation is also available on the conference website. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike to guide us through the story.
Hey, great. Thanks, Taylor. And thanks, Red Cloud, for the opportunity to take you up to date on the Gran Colombia story here at the Oktoberfest conference. First, just a reminder, I will be making forward-looking statements during this morning's presentation. So 2021 is shaping up to be a very exciting year for Gran Colombia as we enter the next decade of the company's growth and development of its operations. As Taylor mentioned, we are an emerging mid-tier Latin American gold producer with a lot of success over the last number of years at our Segovia operations, which have become the crown jewel and anchor of our free cash flow generation in the company. It is one of the highest grade global underground gold mines. It's been a key to cash flow generation. It's got a low cost structure that we've worked out over the years, which is very predictable. And that's allowed us now to use that free cash flow to start paying a dividend, as we did last year. We'll talk a little bit about that more in the next couple of slides. But this year, I think what really is important about what we've been doing is we've been now focusing on where we go from here in our strategy. The focus is growth through diversification. Through the first part of our history, we really centered in on the Segovia operations. And now with the spin out of Marmato that was completed in the first part of this year with Aris Gold taking over. And I know Andrew Gubbels is presenting an update on the Aris story here at the Red Cloud conference this morning. We've turned our attention in March to GoldX, company that we acquired an 18% toehold position back in 2018. And over the last 3 years, have very closely followed the story, followed the developments. We've had participation on the board and the technical committees of GoldX. And in June, we completed the acquisition of GoldX to give us our footprint moving forward with 2 cornerstone assets, one in full production and the other one to be in full production within 2 years, which is our path towards 400,000 ounces of gold production from these very prolific assets in Latin America. This allows us not only to have diversification and scale, but gives us a very robust profile in our balance sheet moving forward with some very solid long-term cash flow generation. We have a seasoned team led by Serafino Iacono and Lombardo Paredes with tremendous experience in Latin America. And that's been important for us, not only in improving Segovia, but it will be as we turn things around with the Guyana project. We have a proven long-term ESG strategy, and that is also the reason that we believe we have the right team with the experience in able to operate with these assets. When you look at Gran Colombia at a glance, what do we have? We have, as I mentioned, the Segovia operations, high-grade mines. Last year, gold production averaged about 14.5 grams per ton. This year, we're running at about 12.7 grams per ton. We've produced 151,000 ounces through the first 9 months, and we're well on our way to meet our guidance this year of 200 to 220,000 ounces. This historic title is one that has been operating for about 100 years, but there's still lots of room to go, and we've got 60,000 meters of drilling going this year that is continuing to prove the propensity of this operation to continue probably another 100 years. In Toro, Peru, we've got one of the largest undeveloped gold deposits in the Americas with over 7 million ounces of M&I gold resource. We're currently working on an update of that resource, taking into account the high-grade structures that were identified in GoldX's drilling of 2020 and 2021. They initially started working on an updated mine plan with Nordman, and we've added SRK to the mix. And at this moment, we're working on not only an updated resource, but a new mine plan going forward that will be incorporated in a PEA. We expect to have it completed this quarter. We're taking a little extra time because we're looking at the trade-off studies right now, segmenting the production profile going forward between open pit operations and then incorporating the underground operations in our strategy. So we expect to have that PEA out here in the fourth quarter. I've mentioned Aris Gold, the company that we now hold 44% interest that's advancing the development of the Marmato project that we had started. But I think one of the really interesting developments for Gran Colombia this year is getting a toehold in the Iberian Pyrite Belt through a 27% equity stake in Davies. This Lomero project in Spain is a very exciting polymetallic project with over $8 billion of metal in the deposit. It has a historic resource with over 20 million tons of gold, silver, zinc, lead, and copper. We're starting a 23,500 meter drill program at Davies this week. And that's initially going to reaffirm the deposit resource and then take us into extension. So it's an exciting development for Gran Colombia to have a toehold position in this asset. This summer, we completed a $300 million senior notes financing. The proceeds of that financing netted out to about $268 million after transaction costs and the repayment of the remaining portion of our gold notes. That $268 million plus another $138 million we have available to us under the Gold X Wheat and Stream allows us to have a fully funded development profile for the Toro Peru project and also be able to cover the interest costs on those notes during that 2 years of construction. So a major upgrade to our overall capital structure to fully fund that project. We've got 98.5 million shares outstanding, 132 million fully diluted. And other than our senior unsecured notes, the only other debt the company has is 18 million of convertible debentures. We've continued to pay a 1.5 cent dividend on a monthly basis. That's puts us at the top of the profile curve in terms of return to shareholders. The next dividend was declared last Friday for payment on November the 15th, and we'll continue to pay that dividend from our free cash flow as we move forward. And then I think the last slide that I'd really like to go through a bit of is the significant re-rating potential. Canaccord started to cover us a couple of weeks ago. They've come out with a $9.50 share price target for the company, recognizing the impact that Toro Peru is going to have on our EBITDA generation going forward. Taylor's got a target out there right now. It is updated as of last Friday at now $13.75. Again, noting not only the strong profile we've had historically at Segovia, but the propensity for us to be able to grow now as a result of the Toro Peru transaction. Fundamental research continues to have a 932 fair value estimate, and Stifel GMP is still sticking to their 875 share price target. By all accounts, on every measure we look at, with EBITDA trending right now at $180 million a year, with our production profile, free cash flow generation, this company continues to trade at a relatively significant discount to its share price targets and fair values. And for that reason, management continues to believe that this company has nowhere to go but up. And we're excited about the opportunity to continue to develop the asset profile through this growth strategy focused on diversification. Last Friday, we announced a renewal of our normal course issuer bid. This is something we like to have in place in case there is weakness in the stock, that we can go in and use that free cash flow to clean up. And so we're making use of all the tools at our disposal to enhance shareholder value. So with that, Taylor, why don't we move on to the Q&A portion of the call.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike. That was a great update. So we have had some questions come in already, and I'll remind everybody else you can keep submitting them using the Q&A link. So we have a question about the Toro Peru asset with the PEA, the updated PEA coming. Are you planning to move to a PFS, and then will there be a feasibility study as well, or will you plan to just build with the PFS?
No, we'll plan to build with the PFS. We're on track to have this PEA done this quarter. We're into pre-construction activity at the moment. We're working on getting the camp ready. We're working on the construction of the roads. We're doing studies related to water control. We're also upgrading the airstrip so that we can use that as a way to bring in supplies and materials for construction. So we're getting all the pre-construction activities out of the way in parallel with the completion of the PEA. The PFS should be completed relatively quickly thereafter in the first quarter next year. And with that, we'll be able to get moving on construction. Lombardo's already got the project team assembled. He's identifying the contractors that we'll use. We're evaluating contract mining as part of the PEA as well as an opportunity for us to defer some of the capital cost into the mining rates. So we think that with all of that, we'll start construction first quarter next year, and we'll be in production by the beginning of 2024 as planned. So everything's running pretty smoothly at the moment.
Great. Okay. And then in terms of ongoing kind of any exploration work at Toro Peru, is there kind of any update on that, or what does that look like going forward as well as you advance?
Yeah, we'll continue to work on exploration. One of the things we want to do is want to drill a little bit more in the underground areas for the longer term development to upgrade. We're going to have a significant amount of open pit resource and reserve available to us when we get started, but we will want to tighten up some of the drilling on the underground areas that'll come into production later on. So definitely have an ongoing drill program. And it's, the drilling's only gone down about 450 meters, and we don't think that the mineralization stops there. So definitely going to be doing some deeper drilling in Toro Peru.
Great. Okay. I have a question turning to Segovia, just wondering about how the progress is going towards the ramp up at the plant there, as well as the polymetallic plant and getting that up and online.
Yeah, the expansion of 2,000 tons a day is very far advanced. We will be completed this quarter. As you saw in our production results released last week, we're continuing to operate at about 15 to 1,600 tons a day. I'm not certain yet that we'll be fully at 2,000 tons a day by the end of this year. That'll come at some point next year as we continue to open up areas and piggyback off the brownfield exploration program that we're doing. But we do have planned to continue to grow this, and we'll probably be closer to 1,700 tons a day by the end of the year. The polymetallic plant is in the final stages of its commissioning. Initially, it's running at about 120 tons a day. It does have capacity to go up to 200 tons a day, so we'll continue to ramp that up as we get into early next year. Very excited now to be able to add zinc and lead to the production profile in Segovia.
Great. Okay. And then you mentioned the significant drilling that's been ongoing at Segovia. Should we expect additional results this quarter?
Yeah, there will be an exploration update this quarter. Continuing to see strong return on results at all three of the core mines within the title that we've been drilling. We've been continuing to drill at Marmajito and Vera, and getting some really nice results there as well. So we'll have a fulsome update where we're getting going with drilling at Cristales and San Nicolas here in the second half of the year. So everything's moving along according to the drilling program that we had set out at the beginning of the year.
Great. Okay. And I think kind of one of the bigger highlights from, I believe it was the last batch you put out, was that you were seeing higher grades at depth as you were drilling deeper on some of the veins. Is that correct? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, it's one of the, when we start to, over time, you get to understand a little bit more about the title, certainly reflect and analyze, where you've been. And quite frankly, it's a title that's been very shallowly mined in its history. I think that the deepest operation is El Silencio, that now goes down about 1,200 meters, the 200-meter extension that our team has drilled. But if you look at Providencia and San Roque, they're between 300 and 600 meters down, and the artisanal or small scale mining doesn't tend to go down more than 100 or 150 meters. So as we continue, I think, to move forward in this title, certainly what we've seen is the deeper we go, the grades rise. Serafino always, says the gold comes from down below, it doesn't come from above. So, we're very pleased to see the continuation of higher grades at depth. And we think that's the reason to believe that this operation is going to be around for many, many years ahead. And people shouldn't get distracted by seeing, a reserve that looks like 3 years. That's not our mine life in our mines. We tend to look at the resource life, which is right now about 8 or 9 years, as an indicator of what we have on paper, but we don't think it stops there. And that's why we were confident enough to start this expansion of the plant to 2,000 tons a day, on the belief that as we continue drilling and expanding, you're going to see continuation of very prolific grades in this title, which has been its hallmark over its 150 years of history.
Perfect. So with that, we are right out of time. So thank you very much for presenting Gran Colombia to us this morning. And up next, we have Galleon Gold.
Great. Thanks, Taylor.